Hi, good morning, all of you. Am I audible to you? Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Okay, good morning. So I believe I am audible. Okay, so I believe we are in for a very exciting session today on design thinking, and all of you are already initiated with this process since you had a session just 2 days back on design thinking. Most of you were there in that session. Some of you were not there. No problem. I'll quickly uh, actually give an orientation about what is design thinking to them. But we had an exciting session 2 days back about what is design thinking and how this process can be used uh, to trigger innovation. Right? Yeah. So I would not be dwelling a lot on design thinking, but I'll be definitely dwelling a lot on what design thinking can do to our uh, product development and innovation thought process. Okay, so that is what we'll be discussing most widely today. Okay, yeah. So uh, let's move ahead with this process. Yeah, Leo, just one request. Okay, just monitor if there is any mic which is open. Okay, and you can mute them if there is no questions from that audience.
Sure, sir. I'll do that.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. So, if I should ask you one question, why design thinking? You know, why design thinking? And I believe most of you would be clear by now because most of you have gone through one session on design thinking. In my perspective, design thinking is a process which is used for last mile user connect. Okay, design thinking is a process which is used for last mile user connect. Now, you may ask me, sir, what is this last mile user connect? Yeah. Now, last mile user connect is nothing but creating a product or creating a service in such a fashion that you reach your customers intricate needs. Yeah, that you reach your customers intricate needs. Now you may create a product which may solve the problem of a customer, right? But still, if the customer is not happy using that product, though it is solving his problem, he may not use it, right? Or if he has to put in a lot of friction in using that product, he may not use it widely. For example, we know in this present situation where, because of COVID-19 problem that is everywhere, all of us are actually pushed to wear a mask. But there are certain masks when we wear, we get a pain behind our ears, right? We get rashes on our face sometimes. Now we may be wearing for an hour or maybe maximum for an hour or so for a few minutes when we are in public, but there are people, healthcare workers, who wear it for a day sometimes. So they find it very irritating, something that covers their face for long amount of time. It does leave some marks, so mask is a good solution for this problem, pandemic problem, but still it is something that is used with friction. So many people have come with cotton masks, they've come with things that are softer on face. There are so many innovations that people are doing, mostly frugal innovation people are doing at their own end. Okay, but there is of course a lot of innovation to be done with respect to wearing a mask in the future, if it becomes a way of life. Now that is where I say we have to get this last mile user connect, with our customer, how to meet their intricate needs, the smallest possible needs. That is what is called as last mile user connect. Yeah. So design thinking is a process which is deeply user centric. Deeply user centric. Now when I say deeply user centric, means it literally looks at the need of the customer, okay, and does a product development just for his need. Okay. Now it does not take into context only technology, only the availability and all those things, but it takes into consideration the pain points of the customer and from the customer's perspective. That is why it is called as deeply user centric process. Okay, it is something that is an iterative mechanism. There are 5 steps in design thinking. We saw that last time. And these 5 steps are iterative process. Means you fail at one step, you can come back to the previous step and restart. There's an iterative mechanism by which you can actually, your probability of innovation becomes high. Okay, probability of, it's an experimental way of innovation, but with a channelized thought process. Okay, it's not a random experimental process, it's a channelized and it's a thought process which is channelized. Uh, it is kind of tweaked thought process. Yeah. So it enhances the probability of innovations to happen. It shows the path when it's day one. When from the first day, it helps you to understand what is expected from your product or your service. Okay, let me tell you, design thinking is not only for product, it is also for a service that you provide. Yeah. So whether it is startup, whether it is business, whether it is your teaching profession, some of your faculties who have joined, whether it is whether you are a cook, whether you are a homemaker, whether you are a professor, whatever you are, whether you are a lawyer, whether you are just a student in a college or in a university, in whatever profession you may be, design thinking can be applied by them. Design thinking can be applied by maybe a person who's doing sanitary engineering to satellite engineering. Design thinking can be applied by person maybe who's in a CEO position to the person who's maybe a mason or a carpenter. Anybody can apply design thinking. And design thinking is such a process. It's not limited only to entrepreneurs or people who develop business. It is a process which can be applied by anyone who want to bring innovation in their product, in their service, in their way of doing a job. So that is what is actually design thinking. Okay, so that is this process called design thinking, and it's deeply user centric. It's an iterative mechanism. It puts the user at the center place. It helps you to innovate more effectively, right? And it gives you the right expectations from day one, from the customer's perspective. Remember, when you look at a problem and when you see an opportunity, you mostly look at the problem from your perspective, because that may have your pain point. Yeah. But sometimes the pain points that you try to solve for others, which can be a business opportunity for you or a startup opportunity for you, but that pain point may not be understood by you until and unless you empathize or walk in their shoes. That is why it is a very user centric process. And one of the key steps in design thinking, and this we did in the last session, Mr. Vivek handled it very well, is design thinking is a process which has its 5 steps. Now, Mr. Vivek added one more step after test, was implementation, very rightly said, especially for us engineers, most of us who are engineers. Design thinking starts with a step called empathize. It starts with a step called empathize. Empathize. These steps were very deeply discussed in the last session, so I'll be quickly going through them, and then I'll go into the examples quickly. So, what is empathize? Can any one of you say what is empathize? What does it mean to empathize? Can anyone say? You can unmute your mic and say, or you can put it in the chat box. What do you mean by empathize? Yes. What do you think is this process called empathize? Yes, some of you are saying walking in others' shoes, understanding the situation of others' problem. Okay, so what is empathize? As you rightly understood, is walking in somebody else's shoes. Okay, or putting yourself in somebody else's situation. That is what is called as empathize. For example, if you want to solve the problem of the farmer, you need to think from his point of view. As somebody has rightly said, thinking the problem from their point of view. If you want to solve a problem of a homemaker, you want to go and spend time with her or with him. you know you know Empathize is user centric approach, looking at the problem from their perspective, from the person who's having that problem. As engineers, or maybe as technocrats, or as as person in any field, you may think you should solve the problem that is pressing our society. I should solve the problem of water, I should solve the problem of agriculture. Let me tell you, you will never solve their problem unless you go and live with them, understand their. You may come with a solution which otherwise they may not be able to use it, Okay, one simple solution, one simple example I like to give, and I'll actually like to follow is which I saw in one of the incubators recently, where there were two innovators who actually came up with a solution to operate a pump remotely. So you have this water pump that can be operated by farmers remotely, because this farmer had to travel 2 kilometers morning and evening from his house just to operate a pump in his farm. Now the problem was when he operates the pump, because when he used to go at nights, if it was there was a problem, because it's a field, open field, there can be snakes on the way. He used to go with a small torchlight. People at his home used to be worried, and all that he went there was just to open a pump, put it on, and put it off. Yeah, that was the only reason that he went there. Now, but now there was an engineer who actually saw this problem, a student actually, and he said, "Why not I make a system for you, which is remotely operated?" So he came up with a smartphone application. He used a GSM technology by which he made him to send a message through that application to the uh, you know uh, to that particular pump. He used to put on, and then the pump will become on. When he used to put off, the pump will become off. So this mechanism was given to the farmer. So when the farmer was asked about this technology, he was happy, and he gave this smartphone application to this farmer, and he thought this farmer is happy. And after a month, he asked the farmer, "How are you using it?" But the farmer, to his dismay, had actually stopped using this. And when he asked, there are a few reasons told by the farmer. The farmer said, "This technology is pretty not comfortable for me. I had to press put on and send. Sometimes the message does not go. Network is poor, and all these reasons were given." And when this reason was given, the he was not very happy. He said, "No, see, there is when the message goes, this is there and all." He tried to convince him, but then he came with other setup from. He said, "When I make it on, I don't know if the pump is on, if the water is there, if the water is taken from the well and been poured into the field. I don't know. I don't have an assurance of it." That is where he started deeply thinking about the farmer's problem, right? And then again, when he started talking, he came up with an application finally where a farmer can make the pump on by just making a call. So when the farmer makes a call first time, even if the pump is becoming on, other reason the farmer gave was, if there is no electricity when the pump is situated actually in different place, and if there is no electricity at that time, when I send a message, I get a reply that the pump is on, but I don't know if the pump is really on. So if there is no electricity at that time over there, I need a notification. Then that is the time he actually went ahead, understood the problem of the farmer. He actually made a system finally by which he can make a call. By a call, the pump will become on. The pump is not becoming on, he'll get a text message that either the electricity is not available, or maybe water level in the well is so low and it is not able to pump the water. And by another call, he can make the pump off. So finally, he made the mechanism so simple for the farmer. It was not about making it as technologically superior, making a application, giving data sets of how much time did you put the pump on and off and all. Now this all looks good. He had put all this feature in that application. He thought he'd take the market by surprise, and so many products he'll sell. But the thing is, the farmers didn't want it. Farmers only wanted to know was they wanted to on their pump maybe just by a call, and maybe they just wanted to have an assurance that the electricity is there, the water is being going to the farm. This was what was the requirement of the farmer. Later on, this person is actually has integrated with satellite technology. He's looking at the moisture in the ground. Now he has grown his business and he's operating internationally. Now what I'm saying is, this is how design thinking works. Unless and otherwise, thinking from our room, we may think a farmer needs a solution to operate the pump remotely, make it on or off. But that is not all. When we talk to them deeply, or we converse with them deeply, we understand there are so many other intricate fear needs that a farmer has, which if not addressed, the farmers may not use our solution. The farmers may not use our solution. Yeah. So that is the issue with this design thinking process. Design thinking process actually helps us to think about the problem from the user's perspective or from the customer's perspective. That is what makes it an extremely powerful tool. Because from the day one, if you're thinking about the problem from the customer's perspective, then you will definitely make a solution that the customer wants, not what you want. Okay, not what you want. Definitely come across with a solution that the customer wants. Yeah. So that is why design thinking is a very powerful process. Yeah. So start with the process called empathize, right? Then comes define. Define is where we get a clear understanding of our problem. We list the top 3 pain points, try to address them one by one. Ideate is where we brainstorm and come with all the possible solutions, put it on the table, look at the technical feasibilities, user feasibilities, convenience and everything. And then we make a prototype, something that works. Okay, something that we can get a market feedback from, something that is called as a minimum viable product. And finally, we test it. When we test in the market, now there can be it can happen that when we test in the market, the product may not get a right feedback. That is a time when we have to iterate our process. Maybe something has gone wrong in the prototype, or maybe our idea itself was wrong, or maybe our definition of the problem was wrong, or we have not empathized properly. So it's an iterative process. It's an iterative process. So if you fail at the ideate stage, go back to define stage. If you fail at the prototype stage, maybe you have to go at define stage or ideate stage or empathize stage. So it's an iterative process, and this process keeps on continuing until you have that perfect product launched out into the market. Until you have that perfect product, user-centric product launched out to the market. So that is why it is called as a design thinking process. It's a thought process. It's a thought process. Yeah. So let me show you a few examples. Discuss with you a few examples. Now, if you know about this company called Philips, right? Now, Philips don't have a very Philips has a very good reputation in our among the industries in India. It does not have a track record of failing, right? But yet, when it actually started something called as an atta maker machine, okay, back in the early 90s, it actually had released an atta maker machine. Now, atta maker machine, was actually targeted towards solving the problem of Indian housewives. Now you know how attas can mess up the hand of Indian housewives. It is a process where people have to put in some effort, time, energy. All these things are there. Now what Philips company thought, this is a perfect product to reach out to the Indian market. In Indian market, and what they did was they released this product in a record time. Their R&D department, product development department, was headed by Mr. Pradeep Subramanian. He actually worked on this product, and they actually released it. And when they released it, to their shock, not many people are buying it. Now, they did a market survey and they found out that this product can be best sold in places like maybe Maharashtra, Gujarat, where most of the people eat chapatis. But the problem was product was not selling. You know, and it was not having that market traction. If I should ask the audience now, why do you think the product did not sell? Isn't atta maker a good machine? If I should ask the uh, audience now, why do you think the product did not sell? Maybe you can raise your hand, or you can put it on the chat box. If you raise your hand, maybe Leo can unmute them. Yeah. Yes. Why do you think the product did not sell? What was the reason? Yes. Can anyone think about a problem? Why do you think the product did not sell? No, it was a machine. Okay, it was a machine which made atta. You put just the chapati flour, okay, wheat flour and water, and it will make it into a dough, right? Now, doesn't it solve a problem of a housewife in India? You make chapatis on daily basis, right? Most of the households make chapati on daily basis. Doesn't it take? Isn't it a time-consuming process where you have to put your effort, you to put your energy and all those things? Yeah, isn't it something that would relieve you of your pain of putting all those energy and wasting time and messing up your hand and all those things? Now, this is actually a useful machine or innovation from the perspective of the industry, and they released it, and they did a lot of advertisement campaign. But why did they fail? Anybody can think about it. Why do you think they failed? Why do you think they failed? No, when they actually did a deeper study, yeah, some of you saying it's their culture. People were used to this routine, so it takes time to adapt. Angelina is saying people were used to this routine, so it takes time to adapt. Yes. Now, that's right. It's their culture. Now, what happened with Philips? They had a shock. Why is this machine not selling? It's an excellent product, something that should have sold in the market as a hot cake. And Philips does not have a reputation of failing. But when they did a market survey, their R&D team started going and talking to the housewives, and they found actually one very funny reason. Okay, actually they start talking to the housewives and they start saying, "Why don't you use this machine? Is it too costly? Is it Is it consuming a lot of electricity? Does it mess up your vessels too much? Is it like a Lego? You have to assemble, disassemble. Can we make it simple?" They try to bring in a lot of innovate. They thought about solving problems further, but the problem was that the market didn't want this, and they were surprised. When they asked this houses, why don't you use it? What's wrong? This is excellent innovation. Why don't you use it? Finally, there's few housewives started opening up, and that is where actually they were surprised when they heard that this is actually a cultural problem. Okay, as one of you rightly said, it is actually a cultural problem. Now, as one of you said, in Gujarat, when they asked few housewives, they said, "No, why don't you use it?" They said, "Is electricity bill coming more? Is the cost high?" And they said, "No, none of these are problem." I said, why don't you do it? And I said, I just enjoy doing it. Now, that was something that intrigued them. How do you enjoy doing a routine job like making chapati atta? Now, that was something that intrigued them. How do you enjoy doing this routine work? Now, when they asked, and they said, you know what? When we do it at a home, this housewives revealed, when we take that chapati dough, put that water and flour, and we put all our energy, it's like a stress relieving exercise for us. We put up pressure there, we beat the dough, and that helps us. That is a time when we relieve our stress. Maybe we curse our disobedient sons or daughter-in-laws and all those things. Now, will somebody replace their pleasure activity with a machine? Let me ask you, will somebody replace their pleasure activity with a machine? No, this won't happen, though it may solve a problem. Now, this is where design thinking would have helped Philips. If they had empathized from day one with the team, you know, with the housewives who are going to use this product, rather than going with a survey sheet and asking, is chapati making a problem? Does it consume time? Maybe this is the kind of problem analysis that most of us do, and they would have done. But the problem was they did not do a qualitative assessment of, is this product really required? Does it solve the problem? Even if it solves the problem, will they use it? That is what is design thinking. It is a deeply user centric. Philips failed with this product in western part of our country, but they were successful with this product in the southern part of our country, because the perspective of a housewife in southern part of the country making chapati is very different than the perspective that is there in the northern or the western part of our country. So that is how we can get the market analysis also wrong if we do not follow design thinking at its core. Yeah. So this is one example. Another example, popular example I would like to give is of uh, Google Glasses. Now, most of you know this product called Google Glasses, yeah, and it was released back in 2016, if I'm right, 2016, 17. When it was released with a big pomp. This next technology that is going to replace smartphone. Everything that you can do on your phone will be in front of your eyes. You can plug your computer in front of your eyes. Uh, all these words were used to actually describe Google Glass, and people were thinking smartphone market were actually shuddering. They thought maybe Google Glasses would replace the entire smartphone market. But how many of you use Google Glass and not your smartphone? Hardly anyone, right? Mobile is already an intrusion in your hand. How many of you would like to have it 24 by 7 in front of your eyes? I don't think anyone would like to have it. But it is a very good technology. Okay, and Google does not have a reputation of failing much. Google does come up with extremely good technologies, but it was not the need of the hour. It was not required for the people. So you may come up with a solution that is extremely good with respect to technology, extremely excellent with respect to design, features, this and that. But if it is not required for the customers, why would they have it? Yeah. So design thinking attacks at this very place. It helps you to understand the intricate psychographic requirement of your customers, by which you can give to them a solution that they want, solution to the problem that they want. Okay. So companies like Philip and Google can fail. Can we not fail? Definitely we can. So the solution can go wrong in the face of design. The solution can go wrong with the face of in the face of your development. Yeah. A solution can actually go wrong in the face of branding also. An excellent example is Tata Nano cars. Now, Tata Nano cars were extremely good cars, brought in with the right intention by Ratan Tata to solve India's common families travel problem. Okay, so it was brought in with an intention of helping below average family who can afford a bike to afford a car. Okay, so car within 1 lakh rupees was what promised by Ratan Tata, and he wanted to make people travel safe within a small compact family car. Yeah. Now intentions were right, technology supplied were very right, car was good. I've personally driven Nano and I found it is a very good car. But the thing is, car did not sell. And the market, this is very perplexing. Tata is also a company. Yes, Tata may have failed in the past with Indica, but Tata Nano was so well made, so well promoted. It had such a good market penetration in the initial days, but then it slowed down and they finally stopped Tata Nano's production now. When they did a detailed analysis, they found one reason that Tata Nano failed was because of its branding. And the branding went wrong is because they branded as poor man's car. Now imagine in India, where people buy car not for utility purpose, but first for luxury and status purpose? Will they like to be branded as a poor man when they drive a car? Yeah, that was what was the problem with Nano. Nano was an excellent car, but if they had branded it differently, maybe we may had a different perspective. So companies like Tata, Philips, Google can fail. Definitely we can fail if we don't apply design thinking in our process. So design thinking is a process. It is not to be applied somebody for someone who's going to start their first product or first company or first startup or first service. Design thinking is a process that can be used lifelong. So whether you are already a startup entrepreneur, you've already started your business, doesn't matter. You even in the middle of the business, you can start using design thinking. Design thinking is a thought process which can be used at any point of your life. At any point of your life. Okay. So that is what is design thinking. Okay. So there's a few case studies which help us to understand. Okay. Now, few success stories, if I should say. Some people who may have not studied design thinking also, but have come up with successful innovation. For example, one example I can give is Mr. Arunachal Muruganathan. Most of you would be knowing him as Padman, and he is from Coimbatore. If you look at, and most of you know his story, if you look at his innovation, even without knowing this process of design thinking, he's applied the process of design thinking from day one. Most of you may know his innovation. He has come with cost-effective sanitary napkins and he was solving his own wife's problem uh, to deal with her period days, menstruation days. Now, the market price of those commercially available sanitary napkins, and it is out of reach of poor women, daily wage workers, people who reside in rural areas where the penetration of usage of sanitary napkins is near 7%. Now, Arunachal Muruganathan wanted to solve this very problem, and the and this opportunity, this problem discovery happened with his own wife, could not afford a sanitary napkin that is available in medical stores because of the cost problem. And when he analyzed this problem, he wanted to solve it. And when he thought about solving it, to cut the story short, he found that the first understanding he required was about the napkin itself, what kind of cotton is used, what filament was. So he went to the length of asking his wife feedback, his sisters. Most of them departed from him, did not want to communicate because it was a social stigma to discuss. He started discussing this with medical college students, girls, but they were also not willing to discuss in deep because it was a stigmatized topic in Indian culture. And then finally he started using napkin upon himself and tried to push blood through a tube just to understand what kind of feeling that uh, uh, women may go through. Has to go through just to understand what kind of feeling the women may go through. Now that is the extent of process of empathizing that he went through. Finally, he came up with the solution of making the napkin. But when he came up with the solution of how to make the napkin effectively, he understood what kind of cotton is used, what kind of filament is used as an absorber. He understood that to make it in bulk, you require a machine which may cost from 3.5 crores to 5 crore rupees. And that's the reason it is with MNCs. But that is the reason, that is the time he actually did not give up. He spent his next 4 years in creating the machine that you can see on the right hand side, which was hardly made for 5,000 rupees, right? Hardly made. Imagine something that can be replaced for 5 crore to 5,000, may not be at that scale, but at least at a little lower scale. But that can be made at your back here. And here is an uneducated, here is a person who is less educated up to 10 standard, but is solving a problem for humanity using design thinking process without even knowing it. So if I look at design thinking, it is also common sense principle. Yeah, common sense principle. And it all starts by empathizing, putting the user at the center, defining it, right? And if you know today, Mr. Arunachal Muruganathan, the solution is going across every single second world countries, most of them. Yeah, more than 17 second world countries are actually using his machineries. And he has not commercialized this sector. He has a Jayashree Industries, but they make these machineries to be given to rural women, self-help groups, NGOs who can use this machine to create sanitary napkins in their rural areas for less than rupees one. Now that is one or less than rupees one, and that is the innovation that he has got through this process called design thinking. Now that is the power of design thinking. You can come up with solutions that can serve humanity. Yeah. Now another example that I would like to discuss is a solution called of Wow Momo. Yeah. Now I don't know how many of you know Wow Momo. Wow Momo was started by Sagar Daryani and Vinod Homgai. Later on, Shah Mukhtar Rahman also joined them as their co-founder. It was started in year 2009. In the year 2009, when it was started, just from one kiosk in a mall, and just by one 6 by 10 kiosk, a small kiosk. Uh, but if you see their entire journey today, 10 years later, Wow Momo uh, is in almost every single city in our country with a valuation of more than 250 crores. With more than 284 outlets in our country. More than 280 outlets in our country. He started with making wow momos, steamed snacks that we get in the northern part of country. It's very popular, and nowadays we get in South India also. Now they just made this momo into a snack. They made it into a meal. They made it into a burger. Now I would like to show you a video of how does innovation go through. And innovation did not stop only of making the momos, but also making the stall, making this outlet. I have visited this outlet when I have been in Kolkata, and it's a very good outlet, very good look. By the look itself, you get a feel to attend that outlet and have. And they provided this one snack like a momo, what can be like an idli in Tamil Nadu. It's like momos there. And they made into so many different. They made the momo burger. They made a cheese momo. They made a chocolate momo. They make mango momos in mango season. They make pizzeria momo. Today they make a momo burger. They make a momo biryani. They have come up with so many different dishes of momo. That is what design thinking does. They have applied design thinking principle in making that simple snack into a global snack, and they're going now globally also. I like to show a small video, right? Leo, can we show video? I think it will be audible.
Yes, sir,
right?
you can. Yeah.
Yeah. Show video. Leo, just let me know if it is audible. Okay. Is it audible?
Yes, sir, it's audible. Sir, the video is not playing currently on the screen.
Oh, video is not playing. No? Okay, 1 minute. I'll have to share that screen, right? Sorry, 1 minute. Huh? Is it visible now? हमने बोला यार हम इस स्नैक को एक मील बनाएंगे 30,000 रुपीस से हमने वामो शुरू किया और आज we have more than 130 stores across the city, 1,300 people working for that, and turnover of 75 crores per annum, and by God's grace a valuation of 300 crores. हमने क्या किया, एक सिंपल से स्टीम मोमो को हमने इनोवेट करके पैन फ्राइड, सिज़लर, चॉकलेट मोमो, मोमो बर्गर, तंदूरी मोमो, हमने मोमोज के साथ खेला. हमने अपने ब्रांड को एक वाइब्रेंट लुक एंड फील दिया, एक कलर दिया. हमने फूड को फन बनाया. तो 2 स्टोर से पैसे बचा के हमने थर्ड खोला, 3 से बचा के हमने 5 खोला, 5 से बचा के हमने 12 खोला, 12 से बचा के हमने 15 खोला, 15 से 20, 20 से 30, 30 से 40. And to make this dream bigger, this year we launched this new concept called Wow Momo on Wheels. Our tagline, as you can see, is Momo on the Move. It's a 5 feet by 4 feet kiosk that we've made. It's on wheels. We have a chiller for storage of the momos, kept frozen, kept cold. We have a carbon chimney so that the entire smoke and the exhaust gets absorbed. And this place that you see here helps us to see the temperature of the refrigerator. And then we have this filling machine along with the EDC machine. We have Paytm here also. We also accept cash. And here is our cute little cash box. Below this cash register, we have a nice cupboard to stack documents. We have a nice little first aid kit over here. So this is where the frying happens. Like you can see, he's frying hot chicken momos here. Now this is the pan fry section. So we have an induction cooker here, and the momos are fried and tossed in Szechuan sauce, the tomato garlic sauce to prepare the pan fried momos. So we have a veg fryer and a non-veg fryer. Similarly, we have a non-veg steamer and a vegetarian steamer downstairs. As a food brand, you aspire to be in high footfall location and the best of mall and the best of high street locations. So we created this concept so that we can plant ourselves in metro stations, in airports. There are also some locations we don't have very high footfalls. Now I would want to be there because I want to cater to them, but I can't do a very big store there. So we can do a Wow Momo on wheels, which is 5 by 4. To be the food of all times, we have to be visible everywhere.
मैं तो पहले मोमोज खाती ही नहीं थी, बट जब से मैंने वाव मोमो ट्राई किया, तब से मतलब छोड़ ही नहीं पाते। मेट्रो से हम लोग ज्यादा ट्रेवल करते हैं, हम लोग यहाँ पे आके आसानी से खाना खा सकते हैं। मेरा सबसे पसंदीदा मोमो है चीज मोमो। This kiosk right behind me. From here, Wow Momo does business worth 15 lakh rupees a month, which is an amazing. Even some.
I believe it was very well explained. Yeah. Uh, uh, is it audible to all of you?
Yes, it's audible.
Yeah. So now that's if you saw that Wow Momo video, you see he started with just one outlet, okay, and by just selling steam momos, but he did not stop with that, right? He saved the money from that one outlet, started two outlets, but then he did not just went on multiplying outlets by just giving steam momos. He started innovating that momo itself into different type of snacks. He innovated the product first of all, he started giving momos, chicken momos, different types of momos in momo flavors. He started giving chocolate momos, momo burger. Now he comes up with pizzeria momo, momo roll, he's come with momo biryani. Now, whatever can happen, with this momo, okay. That is what he actually started pushing in, right? He started innovating that product, but later on he started innovating the service also. You see, he came up with an outlet on wheels, right? He came up with an outlet on wheels. He came up with small kiosk, which can be placed in an airport or maybe in a mall. He started coming with micro kiosk, like, rather than a stall. He came up with a kiosk. He has a kiosk which is actually an old bus converted into a momo kiosk. Now that is the way he started bringing in the design thinking process into his service also. He made sure how to, even the small things, if you see, you can find design thinking being put there in effect. You see, the cash box he had, the document box, or the fryer, everywhere you find design thinking being used. He has made innovation by seeing the problem of not only his customers but also his employees. Okay, he's trying to solve this problem. So design thinking is a process which you can not only use in your product but also in your service. Okay, and that can actually make your business better. As you saw, one small kiosk could make a business worth 15 lakh rupees. No wonder there are 300 crore company today, hardly in 10 years. And these were Sagar Daryani had started this business along with his friend Vinod Homeguy in the final year of his BCom course, right? Most of you are in third year, final year of different type of courses that you're studying all over country. As of now, you are in the group. Let me encourage you, start young, start now. Start now, because you have so much of energy, so much of enthusiasm, and with this simple knowledge of design thinking, you can come up with amazing solution that the customers want, that your users want. And definitely you can make industries maybe as big as what Sagar Daryani has made, or even bigger than that. So let me put a challenge. Why not take some snack in Tamil Nadu, our own snacks, and make it into a global snack? If you hear the talk of Mr. Sagar Daryani and his co-founders, it's their dream to make momo a global brand, like pizzas or burgers is in India. They want to make it into a global food brand. Yeah, so that is their perspective, that is their vision. Let me give you another example. I have taken some examples with respect to food today, okay, because that is something that will interest every one of you. Now this is another example of making spoons. Okay, now I believe the YouTube this thing is still visible. Yeah, so we know that plastic spoons are a problem, right? And there is one innovator who has actually come up with a solution of solving that problem. Let's see this.
Excuse me, sir. So
Yeah.
if you go to sharing options, you can choose audio from the laptop. I think the audio will be more clearer that way.
Sharing options. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Let me share computer sound.
Yes, sir.
That option. Yeah. Okay, just let me know if the sound is clear now. Okay.
Cause cancer, these leach into food.
Is it clear?
They don't.
Yes, sir. It's clear.
But still, we're using a whole lot of plastic disposable cutlery. Why are we doing this? Answer obviously is there is no alternative. oh well, we have an alternative now. We come up with an alternative, and that is edible cutlery. Here, there is no coating. In fact, it is entirely nutritious. You can eat up the spoon. Delicious. It is made of jowar blended with rice and wheat without preservatives, just like dehydrated vegetables. Our product also has a very long shelf life of more than 3 years. In fact, you can even have a hot soup also. You can stir your sugar and have your tea. You can eat it up. You don't want to eat it, you can just throw it. It decomposes within 4 to 5 days.
विश्वास नहीं हुआ, पहले बार देखे तो लकड़ी समझी मैं, मगर गांव में स्टार्ट होके काम शुरू किया बाद साग में डाल के अपन खाए, बहुत टेस्टी रहता मैडम।
I believe you can go back and see this video as a spoon you can eat for more information on this. But isn't that an amazing solution, right? To do away with this plastic spoons, which you cannot dispose, and even if it dispose, it's an environmental hazard. No. So how did they come up with this solution? They came up with the solution of edible spoons. Edible spoons. That is how you can apply this principle. Yeah. Now let me give you another example. Now this was with respect to a product. Now with respect to a service, I like to give an example. Now this was actually practiced in Mexico City by a very well-known food company called Burger King. Most of you would be knowing, and by hearing this word, most of your mouth will be already watering. But let's see how did they use design thinking as a principle in their process. And when they use it in their process they actually use this in their supply chain. In the sense, how to provide the food was only through their outlets, but they actually innovated in providing it in a different way using an application, using this principle called design thinking. Now let's see how it has made a change in their life.
Traffic Jam Whopper. We used real-time data to detect our potential buyers in a traffic jam to offer them a Whopper and deliver on the move.
Fernanda, buenos días. Señor Eduardo, buenas tardes.
Ay, qué bello.
Llegaste en chinga, cabrón. Me cagaba de hambre.
Our media was 100% dynamic, promoting our service only in high congestion zones. By leveraging traffic and drivers' real-time data, we adjusted our billboards' location and content. The messages displayed information about the remaining time in traffic to order and personalized updates about deliveries in progress. Also, Waze banner ads and push notifications invited drivers to get a Whopper as soon as they entered our delivery zones. People were able to use voice commands to place the order and avoid tickets. Finally, using the latest Google Maps APIs, our app pinpointed vehicle location and speed in order to deliver for the first time ever to a driver on the move. The delivery zones changed following the traffic light, making our service available when a gridlock was identified, always within a 3-kilometer radius from the restaurants.
Hola Mariana, ¿cómo estás?
Ay, te agarraría besos.
Lo siento, estoy en servicio.
In just 1 week, we increased delivery orders by 63%, and our daily app download rate increased 44 times, becoming the #1 fast food app, surpassing McDonald's, Domino's, and Starbucks in Mexico. Coming soon, Los Angeles, San Paulo, and Shanghai. The Traffic Jam Whopper.
Enjoy the traffic jam.
I believe you enjoyed watching this video. Yeah. So that's what Burger King did. They just changed the process of delivering their food to the audience, food to their customer. Okay, they leverage the problem of traffic. And if you see, after releasing this application, within a week there was more than 44 times download of this application, more than 63% upheaval in the orders they received. That's a change that can happen to the business when we apply design thinking. Yeah, let me give you another example. Okay, as I had said, this is a practitioner's perspective, so I just want to give you a lot of examples because we have done a lot of theory in the last class. So let me give you another example. So this is another example of how our favorite snack, or what you can say, golgappa or pani puri, can be offered in a different way. And most of the times we are very intrigued of eating pani puri because it is something that is handled with hand. It is put inside a ball of water with their hand, and sometimes some of you who are very hygiene conscious may say it is, did they wash their hands, and all these things are there, right? So a person came up with an innovation, of offering it in a different way. Okay, let us see this innovation.
All you Pani Puri lovers, we have got your revolution of eating Pani Puri, and it's a great experience of having Pani Puri here. So all you have to do is just ask for a plate of Pani Puri, and we'll give you 6 filled aloo puris, and you can just take Pani at your own comfort. You can choose to eat spicy, medium and sweet by sliding upon your finger here. Also, I can have entertainment also by eating Pani Puri. The whole concept of getting this kind of a machine to Bangalore is the concept of automatic, hygiene and taste also.
Finally, you can enjoy your Pani Puri without worrying about the hygiene of the water. The water here is filtered, and here they also have an inbuilt mechanism where the water is being continuously refilled and cleaned. You can adjust the spice level on this machine according to your taste palette.
So I believe this is a very good innovation. Yeah. So the concern that the customers had for years together was, the hygiene by which this snack is offered. Now many people actually suppress that concern just to savor the snack. But with increasing, health consciousness and hygiene consciousness among the educated Indian crowd, especially in metropolitan cities, many people started avoiding this snack. That is where this innovation comes in. Understand the intricate. What do people desire from a pani puri snack? It should be offered hygienically. This technology offers it, right? Now, many people want pani puri in different flavors. Some of them wanted sweet. Some of them wanted medium, with medium sweetness and with some spiciness. Some of them wanted very spicy. There were different taste preferences. So if when you say to a pani puri person, you want one pani puri sweet or spicy, he has to offer you. Now that is where this machine also gave you an adjustment by which you can make it sweet or spicy or medium sweet, medium spicy, and all those different adjustments could be done. Maybe in the post COVID-19 world, I would have actually an addition to this machine, because you have to touch the panel. Maybe you can make it gesture based, right? Maybe you can move your hand in front of it to adjust it rather than touching it, because touching can spread maybe coronavirus or something like that. So innovation keeps on going. What I'm saying is, keep the innovation user centric. Look at already existing procedures. There is innovation. You need not innovate something that is, innovation is something that is already there. You are making the process better. There are so many services, products already in the market where the design thinking process can be used to make it better. And this is one of the examples. This is for maybe hundreds of years this product is there, but nobody offered it in this way, right? Because now the technology is available, it is feasible, but nobody thought about dealing with the intricate concern of a person with respect to hygiene, with respect to the taste and preference. But somebody thought about it and they come up with this machine. They're making amazing business. That is where design thinking plays an important role, right? Now I want to give you another example. I think I have shown this example in my university and sometimes in my entrepreneurship programs. But if you know another entrepreneur called Mr. Manoj Bhargav, he's the richest ethnic Indian in USA. and also founder of Fire Energy Drink. He also has a project called Billions in Change through Hans Foundation, and he's coming with some amazing innovations, right? And I would like to showcase now. We are also looking at renewable energy sources, right, to power our electric bulbs or phones or tablets or TVs in our home. We are also looking at renewable energy sources. Now he has come up with a solution for that 1/3 of the world who do not have the privilege of even blowing a single bulb in their home. Now these are the people actually who require the renewable energy at the first hand. We may build up high mega projects to run electricity, but it's not a conventional, it's not the right source. What if we have a renewable source? And that is where the problem that he tried to solve, and let's see how he solved it.
So you said that in 5 minutes you can power a light?
Yeah, that'll go on for the rest of the night.
The most pressing problems Bhargava is aiming to address: water and electricity.
Those two main things will then enable you to get everything else. People say education. Well, if you don't have electricity and water, education isn't going to help you.
Q Stage 2's free electric bike. 1 hour of pedaling can provide 24 hours of electricity for a rural household.
It turns out that 1/3 of the people in the world would really just like one light bulb, please. Right? That is the biggest change you can get, is one light bulb. It changes your entire life.
It's set to debut later this year for about $200 to $250 a piece for those who can afford it. Stage 2 will subsidize the cost for those who can't. Okay, I'm done with my workout.
This, what we call, is the Rainmaker.
Stage 2's water purifying Rainmaker device could prove as useful to poorer countries as it could be to places in the US facing unprecedented droughts.
The idea came to me was that if you mimic nature, you're probably in better shape than you try to reinvent something.
Right.
There's water comes in, and it gets somewhat heated, very low temperature, and then we push the vapor into a separate chamber, which then drops into water.
And what do you see the market for that system being?
There's no end to it. It's so large. I mean, it's going to be one of the largest industries in the world as things get worse and worse. The market is in the, 50, 100 billion.
And while the Rainmaker is still in the development stage, going into production by the end of the year, another Stage 2 project in the healthcare space has already been approved.
So you can also see his documentary, which is called Billions in Change. His innovations are amazing. What I want to say is, if you look at his innovations also, they are mostly user-centric. They're mostly user-centric. Whether it is water, whether it is electricity. He's trying to take electricity to the remotest part of our country by maybe an electric bike. Imagine you cycle for an hour and you get electricity for 24 hours in your home. Isn't that an amazing thing? What is the side effect? The only side effect you would have is you will become more healthier by working out, right? So that is the kind of solution people are looking at in the days to come, right? They're looking at solutions which will not only solve their pain points, but with lesser friction, with lesser environmental hazard, with lesser problems that can happen to the community around. So that is the kind of solution, and this kind of solutions can happen only and only by applying the right thought process in the development of product, which is called as a design thinking process, right? So coming back to our session, I believe this examples were pretty eye-opening for you. Let me just take you back to our presentation. Yeah. So just before going ahead, okay, I'll give you one more example, and then I'll open up the floor for questions. Now, I came across this example in one of the sessions that I was attending on design thinking, and there was a professor, Mr. Dargalkar from Mumbai University, from Verankar Institute of Management. Now, he actually gives a fortnightly exercise to his students. Now, I'm bringing this example because it can be very relevant to most of the universities and faculties and teachers who may be willing to apply this principle in their college or universities. Now in his college, for his management students, first year management students, he used to give one fortnight exercise, and this fortnight exercise was on design thinking, and the phase was empathy. The thing is, he used to ask group of students, he used to split his class into different groups, into small groups of 3 or 4 people, and he used to request these students to empathize for 2 weeks on a specific target audience. So each group used to give a target audience. Some target audience, some people used to give target audience as lawyers, teachers, people who are blind, who are deaf, mute, and all those things. So one of the group of students that he had given a target audience was, he had actually told them to go and empathize with deaf and mute housewives. Now, if I should ask you this question, how many of you know deaf and mute housewife close to you? Very rare, right? So when this group of students actually got this question of, challenge of empathizing with the deaf and mute housewife, they were kind of discouraged. They said, where will we go and find this kind of housewife? But through their extensive search and from their contacts, they found one housewife who was actually deaf and mute. And through the consent of through her consent, they actually visited her home, and they asked her, do you have some problem? Now through her husband, of course, they asked her, do you have any problem in the day-to-day process, because you are physically challenged? And she, with a smile, said, I have no problem. She said she has no problem. Of course, this is the reply you'll get to if you ask anyone if you have any problem, right? Now this kind of intrigued them. These students came back to the professor and they said, professor, we went and talked to this deaf and mute housewife, but she said she has no problem at all. But that is where the professor intrigued them. How, if you just ask questions, you may not get answers. Sometimes you have to live with them to empathize and understand their pain point from their perspective. So that is where the professor actually again pressed them to go and spend some quality time with that deaf and mute housewife when she's working, when her husband is not around, especially. Now they got the permission, they went and they actually spent time. This 2-3 boys and girls, they actually went and spent time with her from 9 to 5 when her husband was not around, and they were very kind to allow that. And what they found to their amazement was, on the very first day, that when she was cooking, and she was in a kitchen, she had a practice. When she put something in a cooker, she will not move from the place. She'll keep on looking at the cooker. And the reason was, most of you would may have at least tried cooking once in your life, or you may have seen your mom cooking. And when she has something, put it on a cooker, she may go and watch a TV, or she may start cooking something else, because the cooker's whistle gives an indication if something has happened or not, right? Now, but for her, because she did not have an audible reference, she was oral reference, she was looking visibly with her eyes whether the cooker has gone or not, whether the cooking has finished or not. Now this was a problem they noticed on the day one, and they were excited. Yes, this can be a problem that they can solve. The very next other problem they found is, every 5 to 10 minutes she used to go at the door and watch at the door if somebody has come at the door. Now the reason was very obvious, because she could not hear the doorbell going on. So there was a milkman coming, or there was different people, maybe her neighbors coming to give some. So there was a glass window actually beside the door where the people would be visible by. But thing was, the doorbell was not audible for her. So she'll keep on checking at the door if somebody has come. From there, every 5 to 10 minutes she'll keep on watching. And there was something put inside the microwave oven, and the microwave oven was beeping after the process was over, but she was not aware of it. But the students noticed that the microwave oven had actually finished the process and the beep was going on, but she was not aware. She was only aware after some time, and she took the stuff out. But this was another problem that the students observed. Now all these problems observed by the students actually intrigued them to solve that problem. And they went with the professor back to the professor after 3-4 days of analyzing the housewife. And that is where they started thinking about a possible solution. And they actually came up with a very good solution, a wearable device, as you can see over here, This is exactly the device that they made, but the wearable device where you have 3 different LEDs with 3 different colors. Now it was all for different purpose. So when there was a cooker whistle that went on, this LED will glow with a vibration that will go to the hand. Okay, go to her hand. And when the doorbell will be rang, and another LED color will glow with the vibration that will go to her hand. When a microwave oven will finish the job, another LED will glow on with a vibration that will go to her hand. Now this became a good innovation, right? Now, if I should ask you, isn't it an excellent innovation? You would say yes, definitely, because it solves the problem of it. And she was a happy person to use this solution. Now this is where they become so excited. They said, let's go and mass manufacture it. Now back in 10 years back, when they actually thought about this product, now back that time you had to get 19 different licenses to manufacture something. Now this was an intriguing process for them, and they understood they could manufacture the first piece only after a year later, right? After getting all this license and finishing all this lobbying and registering and everything. And they understood it's an intriguing process. And then they thought a little bit more deeply. The professor said, go and study the industry and come. But that is where they said, even if we manufacture this product, now how many will buy it? How many housewives are there? Apart from that, even if we could meet all this housewives requirement, how many of them would actually get this product to solve their problem? Apart from that, can it not be mimicked by any other wearable device company who makes this product, this kind of product? Maybe another company may just make a wearable device, but they may just add off these features with it to cater to deaf and mute housewives. And because they manufacture in so much of bulk, they will easily outwit them with respect to pricing. And slowly they understood this is not a solution that they can pursue of manufacturing in bulk, because they'll be easily outwitted by their competitors. At the same time, it is not very profit making segment. Technology is very down towards just Bluetooth technology based device. So they understood that anybody can mimic it. They cannot get and hold on to a patent for maybe for years together. And this was a challenging thing. This is where actually they started thinking about collaborating. They started thinking about collaborating with the already existing wearable device company and selling them, rather than a kind of licensing right or software right. Now finally, actually now they actually sell software that is made for this solution, and they have collaborative wearable device company who makes this kind of wearable device on demand for deaf and mute housewives. So what I want to say is, this is what is called design thinking. Even you come up with a product that exactly solves a problem of your person, still there may be a problem of making this product in bulk and taking it to a market, because somebody can outwit you. Yeah. Now that is where, after testing and implementing, even after getting the feedback from your customer, you also need to hear to the market. Your ears should be open to the market trend. How much can you push it? How you need to do a competitor analysis. And if you fail there, then you have to offer your service in a different way. I'm not saying you should not solve that problem if it does not have a good market traction. What I'm saying is you should offer the solution in a different way. Maybe you have to collaborate with maybe your competitors itself who may outwit you. So that is how you need to think about creating a solution. Yeah. So when you think about a solution for any problem, 3 perspectives. You need to think about the user needs, as we discussed in deeply today. You need to think about the technological possibilities in the present arena, as well as you need to think about your business goals. And when you think about all these 3 points, you come across this sweet spot. You come across this sweet spot where you actually come up with a product that not only meets the user's pain points, but it also meets their intricate requirements. It also meets the market needs or business goals that you have, right? And it is feasible within the technology that is possible, that is available now. So that is what design thinking does. It helps you to connect. It helps you to do that last mile user connect. I believe now it will be clear to you what is a last mile user connect. Yeah, right? So that is what is design thinking process and all. Yeah. Thank you. So I'm opening the floor for questions now. Any questions, please? You're welcome to ask. Yes. You can put it on the chat box, or maybe you can raise your hand, and maybe Leo can unmute so that you can ask the question. Any questions on design thinking? Anybody has any questions? So was the session useful for you? Did you understand the examples?
In case you want to speak, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, some feedback. How do I ask the students to identify a societal problem that is faced by a lot of people? Yeah, Mr. Shankar has a question. How do I ask the students? Now, let me give you a very good. Actually, we are in a very good opportunistic time. Imagine now you can ask this problem to your students to be solved in the post COVID-19 world. Imagine tomorrow the colleges are opening. But I know this fear of coronavirus is going to stay for a long time. We all know that this fear is, WHO directors have said that we may have to live with this virus for a long time. That means our lifestyles are going to change. Now imagine if we have to admit students back to the college tomorrow, right? How would you reorient their rooms? You have hostel rooms where 4 people stay together. How would you reorient their rooms so that there will be social distancing? How would you reorient places? For example, how would you redesign service? For example, you offer water doctors, right? Filters or water filters. How? I don't think anymore people will use the same glass to drink water, or maybe even touch the tap, right? Because uh, you cannot touch the tap that the others have touched. You don't know where the virus is lurking. How would you open the doors of your bathrooms, commonly used spaces? How would you accommodate people inside your classrooms with social distancing maintained, or with minimal contacts maintained? How would you offer masks that can be worn on daily basis by the students? Because continual wearing of mask also blocks oxygen to a great extent, which is not good for your lungs and your brain and your heart. It seems there are other researches showing that problem. So how would you solve that problem? How do you solve problem of eating in the mess together? How do you solve problem of offering food to the student? There are so many problems that you're going to face when you go back to the university, right? Now these are the problems actually, Shankar sir, you can bring it to your students. You can ask them, can you identify problem in your near community? The best way to find problems is finding local problems. A good example is Mr. Arunachal Muruganand. He found a problem to be solved for his wife, but that solution that he made for his wife became a global solution today. So identify problems that you face locally. Okay. Another thing is, how can I ask non-science student to build a prototype model? Yes, prototype is not something that is a hi-fi product or service or anything. If of course, if it is a product and if they need help, definitely I would ask you to collaborate. Yeah, I would definitely request you to collaborate. Okay, if a 10th fail can make something as Arunachal Muruganandan made, anybody can make. You need to collaborate. For example, I gave an example of Mr. Sagar Daryani. Now he came up with the kiosk. Definitely, he is not a science student; he is a commerce student. But he came up with this innovation. It's definitely the collaboration, asking people to do it for you. Okay, or maybe in our college, when there is a non-science student or an arts student who come up with a technical solution, we tell them to collaborate with engineering students. Now that is how they collaborate. Even within engineering, when a mechanical engineering student come up with a solution which may require a web application or a mobile application, we ask them to collaborate with a CSE student who can come up with that solution. So collaboration is the key, where a non-science student also can build a prototype model to take it to the market. How to another question is, how to analyze the market of our product? This is a very good question. How to analyze a market for our product? There are a lot of technique. It is a very different session in itself. But through design thinking, with respect to design thinking, how to analyze the market for a product is by testing it. Yeah, testing it in a limited scope of area. For example, if you're making something for housewives, test it for at least 100 housewives. Okay, ask them, empathize with them, not ask them questions on a survey sheet, empathize with them. Okay, make a prototype or a solution demo and give to them, tell them to use it, give you genuine feedback. Don't ask just to one housewife, but ask 5 different housewives, and maybe in 5 different stages of life. Maybe, for example, there will be a new housewife, somebody who are newlyweds. Now the housewife may have a different requirement with respect to a housewife who's been housewife for more than 10 years. The housewife who's maybe in her 50s or 60s may have a different requirement. Yeah, so that is how we do market analysis, doing different demography, different. We need to segment the market. Even within one segment, we will find so many different multiple segments. A housewife who's in an urban area, semi-urban area, or in a metropolitan area, metropolitan geography. So different geographies. A housewife who's in Kerala may have very different needs with respect to a housewife who's in Tamil Nadu, or who's maybe in Gujarat or in Maharashtra. You see, so you need to do a market analysis like that. Best way is test market analysis, and you have to do a segmentation of your market before you permeate it. I believe I have answered your question, Alakya, right? Yeah. So 2 more ideas: start a own business and how to select a correct idea. How to select correct idea. Tell me about. Sir, I have 2 more ideas. Start a own business. How to select the correct idea? Okay, so I'll be happy if you start both the ideas. Okay, but there is no, perfect mantra to start a specific idea. But I would say start the idea that serves your local problem first. Okay, that actually is a solution to your local problem. So is your idea actually a solution to somebody's problem? It's first see if that is the thing. Next thing, you see how pressing is that. Is it a want or is it a need? Okay, so for example, if 2 of your ideas is and one of the ideas is a need, for example, something that the customer cannot live without, go with that. If something is a want, a customer may made for it. Okay, he may not go for it. So that is 2 criteria. Third thing is look at the market. How much the market will receive and what they will pay for it, for that solution. So there are a few steps. Of course, there are a lot more steps which you can take, but I would say choose an idea that can be served locally to start with. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So some of you said we need to learn more about design thinking and tools. Definitely, we'll share more sessions on different tools that we can use. Okay, maybe a value proposition canvas, business model canvas. We are having that in mind. Definitely, we'll share those tools with you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Any other questions? I've shared my email ID and my phone number. You can definitely get back to us. You can also get back to Leo. Leo will have a feedback sheet to share. Leo?
Yes, sir. I'll be putting the feedback link in the chat box. So
Okay.
in case you haven't filled it, please fill it. And if you have already filled it, you don't need to fill it again. I will also be sharing the link to our WhatsApp group where we'll be sharing the link sessions and details. So please join that. I'll be putting the chat box right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking your time and explaining all the concepts of design thinking.
Thank you.
And
Thank you so much.
I also thank all the people who joined. Thank you, and there are some faculties as well. Thank you so much for joining. And we'll keep having sessions like this, and request you all to fill the feedback and join the WhatsApp group. Thank you.
Yes, and also you can also request a specific topic of your interest. We will evaluate when to handle that. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
We'll just wait for 5 minutes or 2 to 5 minutes for everyone to go through the links. After that, we'll end the session.